tension and so on and so forth. I think it's significant that this is happening, if you like, in the penultimate year of President Buhari's administration. That's his first term. And there is no way the president himself, who is sitting at the villa, will have an indication as to what the operatives, yes, particularly the security agencies, are up to. Now, we saw something that's similar to this in 1985, after the General Ibrahim Babangida and his colleagues overthrew President, at the time, General Muhammadu Buhari, and the NSO detention camps. That was the Nigerian Security Organization, of course, which then led to the creation of the SSS, now renamed the DSS. It was called Rafinadi's detention camps. You found all kinds of persons who were held in detention, and unfortunately, those detentions were attributed at the time to President Buhari as evidence of his violation of human rights as a military ruler. But here we are. We have seen what has happened, as I said, in this penultimate year as president. These activities have come to light, and it would appear to have been one undertaken by the head of the DSS at the time. But the investigation will reveal more as to what transpired.
And let's hope the current DG will dig in more into some of these issues and allegations.
That's right. All right, Joy, that's the much that we can take, I believe. All right, so let's take a short break now. When we return, we'll be getting on with our conversation again on the restructuring of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There's no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Winning in hot and dry conditions is hard. Causes the body to sweat, which attracts germs that are easily passed from one person to another.
What keeps you so cool, man?
Dettol Cool combines Dettol's protection and an invincible icy feel. For super cool confidence, use Dettol Cool.
Dettol soap is now also available for 100 Naira only.
Madam. Brought us as usual.
As usual.
You have no problem. For the three put
you are welcome, sir.
As usual, yeah?
Welcome.
You take that one.
Yes.
You don't understand? We want Nigerian homegrown rice. Finish. You don't have? You don't have?
Join the rice revolution today.
No other rice that tastes like Nigerian rice.
Are you sorry? That's the Nigerian rice we are talking about.
Chocolate made in Nigerian rice. Healthy food.
I'm going to bring Mrs. Mom to come to chocolate rice of made in Nigeria here. And see how it are made.
Correct.
And how they are cook it.
Correct.
Homegrown rice are good for your health. It boosts our economy and give employment to our people.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and
For years, the NTA has been promoting science, technology, arts and crafts under the tagged name National Children's Expo. We are set with another edition as gather children around Nigeria, junior category ages 6 to 12 and senior category ages 13 to 18. The theme for Expo 2018, achieving self-sufficiency in agriculture, meeting the challenges of security and exposition of alternative energy as pathways to national development. Date, October 21st to 25th, 2018. Venue, NTA Headquarters Arena, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. We are set to celebrate the best of innovation across the country. For more information, please call the following numbers. NTA ETV, promoting learning.
Thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria. Now, to kickstart our conversation on restructuring of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, here is Abdul Malik Adio with a background report.
Established by the Nigerian police, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, was set up to combat violent crimes and criminality in Nigeria. Domicile under the Criminal Investigating Department, CID, the highest investigating arm of the Nigerian police force, SARS developed from these forces and now has a nationwide decree under the Nigerian Federal Police Force to confront violent crimes such as armed robbery, kidnapping, and communal clashes. However, the activities of SARS seem to derail from its original mandate. This followed growing complaints of alleged brutality and human rights abuses by some Nigerians. This includes alleged sexual harassment, extortion, wrongful arrest, and unlawful detention as well as torture. This uproar prompted some Nigerians who took to protest on both conventional and social media with the hashtag #EndSARS campaign. The Inspector General of Police took some steps to reform the operations of SARS. However, the unlawful activities of the operatives seems unabated.
Psychometric tests, training and continuous assessment of operatives deployed to SARS in keeping with acceptable standards operating procedures. Prohibition of conducting stop and search on roads unless where necessary. Provision of SARS operatives to act as bodyguards, delving into land matters, personal disputes, debt collection, and matters that are considered civil. I just want to warn here very, very seriously, if we find any commander involved in this nonsense, we are going to take immediate and appropriate action against that officer.
This prompted the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, to issue an order directing the Inspector General of Police to overhaul SARS with immediate effect and the nation's Human Rights Commission to investigate the allegations. While this is a positive news, experts say it is crucial that the overhaul of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad is far-reaching and immediately effective to end series of torture, unlawful detention, extortion, and other serious human rights violations that SARS officers have been levied with over the years. How can SARS be restructured for efficiency? Should SARS be scrapped? These are questions yearning for answers on Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much, Abdul Malik Adio, for that background report. Now, we have guests at our Lagos Network studios and also here in Abuja. First, let's go back to Lagos and introduce our guests. You can see right there on the screen, that's the retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, Bala Hassan. Retired AIG Bala Hassan, who is also a lawyer. Pleasure to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Good morning, Nigeria.
And with him as well in our Lagos Network studios is Dr. Ona Ehomo, familiar face on Good Morning Nigeria. Is President, National Association of Industrial Security and Safety Operators of Nigeria. Dr. Ehomo, pleasure to have you join us from our Lagos Network Center.
Good morning, sir.
All right, Joy, let's have all of the best.
Yes, and here in our Abuja studio, we have the Acting Deputy Commissioner of Police and Force Public Relations Officer, Jimoh Moshood. It's good to have you join us on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Also in the studio is a familiar face on Good Morning Nigeria, Kabir Adamu, Security Risk Management Expert. It's a pleasure to have you join us on the program this morning.
It is my pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Now, let's start with PRO Jimoh. Let's look at the initial concept of SARS. Give us a vivid and good picture of what SARS is all about.
Thank you so much. The Special Anti-Robbery Squad has been known before. Now have been reformed to Federal SARS. This unit have been the strike force of the force. We have so many strike forces, such as the Police Mobile Force, the Counter-Terrorist Unit, the Special Protection Unit, and the others have been carrying out core police duty in ensuring that violent crimes are brought to the bearers in the country. SARS history is for more than 40 years now, for over four decades, and they have been making significant progress from the period of Anini to the period of recently of Vampires, of Evans, and of Oro and the likes. And there's no doubt that they have made significant progress in ensuring that we rake in criminal elements, especially those who brutalizes their victims, that engage in armed robbery, kidnapping, cattle rustling, and the likes. But we are equally mindful of the SSs of this organization, of this outfit, and that is why the force put in motion check and balances. We have the escort of the force that go around the country to check what this outfit is doing, and equally the IG monitoring is equally there. Then we brought in on board civil society organization and other NGO, both local and foreign, to go into retraining and retraining of SARS personnel to make their comfort to conform with the dictate of the law. Mind you, when the Inspector General of Police came on board, IGP Ibrahim Putu Idris and PM MNI, like we are watching the footage, he rearranged another set of training for SARS personnel and equally directed the evaluations of their conduct. Before you are drafted into SARS personnel, into SARS outfit, you must have served at least 5 years in service, and you must have gone around through the other department of the force where you carry out core police duties such as PMF, such as counter-terrorism and others, so that you'll be able to act and professionally and be able to carry out the duty that's expected of you. We equally, we created an outlet for people to lodge in their complaint, part of which maybe in the course of the program are people to reel out. When you bring in somebody into the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, the kind of training you give him is what makes him different from the conventional police personnel. You heighten his level of alertness and his level of strict and swift response to situation. So in this wise, we are making significant progress in this regard. But of late, when there are outcry and any decision or any policy that is not in the public interest is not a good one. And that is why the Inspector General of Police, based on the issue of NSAS campaign, look inward and set up a committee to look at the SSs of the SARS and to investigate all the activities based on complaints that have been coming from members of the public. But we have discovered that quite a number of those complaints are actually not genuine. Some are genuine, and officers that were found to be culpable were tried within and dismissed out of the force. Some were prosecuted. Recently, the AIG Institute in Lagos dismissed 4 of the officers after informing the Inspector General of Police of their conduct, and they are being prosecuted as we speak. But of late, recently, I think about 2 to 3 days ago, there's a presidential directive for overhauling of such, and the Inspector General of Police have directed immediate compliance, and we have reeled out all these reform strategies and agenda in the implementation of this. One of it is the appointment of a Commissioner of Police in charge of Federal SARS, who is going to be answerable to the Inspector General of Police through the Deputy Inspector General of Police operation. And we have taken SARS out of the Criminal Intelligence Investigation Department to the federal operation that will be under the DIG. We did this to be able for people to know that transparency in the activities, for them to know that if an agency or if a unit is under a department, for example, and they're still complaining, there's need to take them completely off that department. That does not stop them from gathering intelligence, because intelligence comes from the people, it comes from the locals. And as a police officer, you are carrying out general duties. You can be drafted to serve in any department. So the operation is going to be more intelligent driven. And part of the measures now is that they shouldn't carry out stop and search duty, except where case of crime, armed robbery and kidnapping has been committed, and they will not be informed to move in. And part of it is also to ensure that we are created an human rights desk office in every state command, where such an officer will take in complaint, and such an officer is not answerable to the commander SARS at the state level, but is answerable to the commissioner of police SARS, federal SARS at the first headquarter level. These are part of the initiative introduced. And lastly, the Inspector General of Police have directed that a medical psychological evaluation should be carried out on all the personnel officers to find out those who are suitable and to take out those who are not suitable to other lesser duty that probably will be in the interest of the public. And he has equally directed that the Chief Superintendent of Police, and not below the rank of Superintendent of Police, should be the Commander of SARS at the state level. So as you speak, the committee are fine-tuning and implementing this arrangement. Quite a number of dictates have been accomplished, and others are being dealt with. And equally, when we give out the phone number of contact, the civil society organization, the human rights group, including Mr. Shegun Adesanya, who created the hashtag #EndSARS, is equally included on board, so that people will know that any complaint we receive are going to be dealt with appropriately. So we are doing this, and it's in the best interest of the country, because as we are doing it, we have to be mindful also of the criminal element that may want to cash in into this reform that is ongoing. So we will ensure that the presidential directive in this regard is fully complied with.
All right, thank you very much, First Public Relations Officer. Let's go over to Lagos as well, and now get the views of Bala Hassan, who is a retired Assistant Inspector General of Police. You can see him there in suit. Retired AIG Bala Hassan, tell us something. I mean, those who are sufficiently old enough would recall the atrocities of armed robbers in the country before kidnapping also became rife. A number of names you can drop easily. There was Lawrence Anini and his gang in the old Bendel. There was also Shina Rambo in the Lagos and other parts of Western Nigeria. And then if you also now brought in kidnapping, you find all kinds of names, Osisi Kanku, Vampire, Oru, and several others. But how and when did SARS lose its way?
Well, good morning, Nigeria. The history of SARS dates back to early 80s, when Etim Iyang of blessed memory was the Inspector General of Police. I think there was a time he came to the first headquarters and gathered all officers, and as their normal briefing, and told them that the rate of robbery was getting high, that the Supreme Military Council was not comfortable. They have to look for a solution to it. It was then that the Fulani Kwajafa, now in his 80s, mid-80s, was selected to form a unit to ensure that rate of robbery is brought to the nearest minimum in the Lagos area. And that was the origin of SARS, Special Anti-Robbery Squad. He was given all the logistics, he was given the personnel, and that was how they started reducing robbery, not only in Lagos, but throughout Nigeria. But however, what we've seen today now is, of course, we need SARS to prevent crime, to prevent violent activities. Nobody in Nigeria has complained that SARS is not doing well, because without SARS, there will have been a lot of serious robberies, serious chaos, and anarchy in the land. But SARS have been substantially being able to reduce rate of crime in Nigeria. However, the cry about members of the public is the activities, other activities that are not known to law, like maybe extrajudicial killing, extortion, and the like. These are the major cries. So it was timely for the president exercising his powers under Section 215(3) of the Constitution to give lawful directives to the Inspector General for him to carry out, give out instructions for public order to be maintained in Nigeria, and that is how these reforms come about. So we hope that the steps taken by the IG will assure members of the public, general public, Nigerians, that this reform is carried to the logical conclusion, and Nigerians get the better of it, because you can't. The idea of scrapping SARS is unthinkable. However, once they do the things within the confines of Chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution, I'm sure Nigerians will be happy with the work of SARS. You know, after this early 80s, you talk of Anini saga. It was the SARS that brought the Anini saga to its end. You know, all robberies across the major robberies across the country have been done by SARS. As a commissioner of police in Borno State in those days, 7 years ago, I knew that SARS substantially helped in reducing crime. They don't only reduce crime in Borno then, but assisted in fighting Boko Haram. So SARS is doing a very, very great job in Nigeria and needs to be encouraged. The only thing, the instruction of the IG should be carried, the president should be carried out, acting president should be carried out to the logical conclusion.
Retired AIG Bala Hassan, still staying with you, and it's a follow-up to Kingsley's question. You know, before we move ahead, there's a need to check and find out where we went wrong so that it will guide us as we move forward. Where exactly did we get it wrong? Was there not a monitoring team to investigate and find out where they were doing wrong to bring them back? Where did we go wrong?
Well, I believe in the selection of people who head the SARS units. Probably that's what went wrong, because for you to head a SARS unit, you must have the fear of God. So that if you have that, and you must be dedicated to your duty, you must be able to monitor, know where your men are at any given time. Most of these people who do illegal duty is not known to the head of SARS, because I don't expect a senior officer of the rank of CSP to send them to go and be arresting people and taking them to ATM and withdrawing money. So I believe it boils down to the selection of officers. Now that we are in this issue of reform, we should get God-fearing officers to put them to head these departments, and also people who are dedicated, who are ready to work 24 hours a day. Once you do that, you should keep a check on the men. Anytime they close from duty, you must be able to collect their arms and keep them in custody. We don't allow officers to carry arms to their household. If they carry it to household one, the risk of being stolen in the household is there, and also there's likelihood for somebody to get other people to go and carry out illegal duty. So where I think we went wrong is the selection of people who are supposed to head these departments. We should select people who have fear of God, who are competent, who are fearless, who are ready to deliver. You could see when I told you about Fulani Kwajafa was chosen because of his integrity. At a stage, they were saying that he had only primary 4. And he had to tell the IG that you don't use degree to arrest armed robbers, that he was competent. The IG should try him then. And when they try Fulani Kwajafa, you cannot write the history of armed robbery or SARS in Nigeria without mentioning the retired CP Fulani Kwajafa. Probably it's because of the antecedent he was made to head the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency after his retirement. So where I think we must have got it wrong was the appointment. You don't appoint somebody to head SARS based on sentiment. Get somebody who is dedicated to duty, who has fear of God, who is ready to monitor the activities of the men at all times.
Thank you very much, retired AIG Bala Hassan. And we're still staying in Lagos. Let's bring in quickly Dr. Ona Ehomo, the President, National Association of Industrial Security and Safety Operators of Nigeria. Let's get your views about SARS, what SARS was like and where we got it all wrong.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Well, I think Oga AIG here has said SARS was set up to solve a very important problem of violent crime at the time, armed robbery, which transformed or which enlarged to kidnapping, and now we have a headers conflict, we have terrorism. You know, all the range of threats, what we call the threatscape, is so large, is so broad, that this kind of an organization, like Mr. Moshood described it, a strike force. It's like what we call a tactical unit. It's a special weapons and tactical unit that will have the capability to deliver great violence to very violent subjects, to put them down. That is what you need, because your regular black shirt, that's the regular policeman on the street, cannot carry out this kind of very high-stress job. They don't have the training. They don't have the weaponry. If they go there, the bad guys will turn them into mincemeat. So we really need it, and we still do need till today, till tomorrow, despite Shegu Adesina's NSAS campaign. We still need SARS to combat very violent criminals, very violent subjects. Now, having said that, I agree with AIG that we went wrong at the point of where perhaps management of the people. I wouldn't say really because the officers are not the people who are managing them are not God-fearing. I think it's just a case of negligent supervision. And then a case of perhaps impunity. People were doing things and nobody was asking them. They were perhaps above the law. Or in fact, they became the law. And so that is where we got it wrong. And so I think it's unfortunate that we're having this conversation, because crime and criminality is in fact increasing. And we should be looking at how to bring it under control. So I think, having said that, we really need to help the IGP, help the police agency with ideas, with suggestions that will improve these reforms, the overhaul that the acting president mandated and that the IG has started, such that we'll have a safer and saner country, and such that the much needed foreign investments will come in here, so that our youth will get employed and get off being criminals.
Thank you very much. We'll return to you, gentlemen, when we start dealing, of course, with aspects, evaluating the aspects of the reforms that are already been undertaken by the police authorities. But before then, Kabir Adamu, let's have your own take on what went wrong with SARS and what is required to be done in terms of rejigging.
Yeah, I'll ride on what my fellow discussants have mentioned. My perspective is on the systems and the processes that were introduced to ensure that the objectives for which the SARS was set up was achieved. And in this regard, I think the absence of a code of conduct and a standard operating procedure in a transparent manner that would allow for monitoring was clearly missing in the manner the SARS was being run. I'm very happy to note that in the directive given by the IGP, he's mentioned that new codes of conduct and standard operating procedures will be introduced. And to that extent, if we agree that the reason why SARS was introduced is to stop kidnapping and armed robbery, then I think that standard operating procedures and code of conduct should be clear and transparent in the achievement of that stated objective.
Now, apart from the, sorry, Kingsley, follow-up, apart from the code of conduct, in terms of training and retraining, considering what we see in developed economies, do we have that kind of training here in Nigeria from a professional perspective? Let's hear from you.
Yeah, from my understanding, unfortunately, no. I'm very happy that the intention is there. I mean, every senior police officer that you sit down with would tell you in clear terms that this is what he wants to achieve. And the IGP, the current IGP, consistently mentions training. Even our President Buhari, if we go back to his inaugural speech in May 2015, he identified training as a key issue in the police and other security agencies. So there is that realization. But unfortunately, turning that realization to reality has been our challenge. And in that regard, I'm very happy to note that the IGP has mentioned he's engaging with foreign counterparts to assist in this training. Let's remember that the US, UK and other governments emphasizes the point around human rights, and most of the accusations regarding the operations of SARS as it is before the directive to overhaul it has to do with human rights. So if we engage these countries, I see potential where they will be willing to invest in training. Now, the other component of training will be the tactical as well as their operations in the field. So that area, I think we need to have more capacity, both within the police and then from the private individuals that would come in to assist the police. And I'm happy to note that industrial security in Nigeria has reached a stage where someone like me, Dr. Una, and several other practitioners will be happy to partner with the police to support them in the both tactical and operational components of the operations of SARS.
All right, Kabir, thanks. Let's bring in again the Force Public Relations Officer. Now, for a better understanding of the emerging rebranded federal SARS, can we have an insight into what went on before? Of course, the allegation is rife that the old SARS became, as it were, a law unto themselves. How were the SARS in the past organized? Was it every DPO who could set up his own SARS? Was it every state police command that could set up his own SARS?
Thank you so much. In the last arrangement, like our respectable retired IGP, Balasan have rightly said, in the 80s it was formed. AIG retired Fulani Kwajafa was in charge and is still living. They're solving one or two minor health issues. If not, we'll have been able to ask him to plead with him to be here so that he can give an insight into it. SARS wasn't for all comma, even the old SARS, before we move through the federal SARS. But the bottom line is that if you know of recent, there are a lot of issues that are essentials of democracy, which allow people to express their freedom, their right of this and right of that as enshrined and defended in the Constitution. And you can see criminals becoming more emboldened. If you look at what happened to us in Nasarawa, it's not too long ago, that over hundreds of police personnel were killed, is quite fresh in our memory also, and our heart goes to their family. And when you look at what happened in Gwaladima roundabout, where 7 police personnel were killed, and equally that of Edo, Sabongida Ora, where police patrol vehicles were ambushed and they were attacked, the tank containing the fuel busted, and all of them were burnt alive. Then you call it happen. What happened to even the special intelligence response team of the IGP in Kaduna after making arrest of kidnappers who kidnapped one Sheikh in Kaduna, and they were ambushed. The team repelled the ambush and 4 of them lost their life. You know, all these send signals to the personnel of SARS to be on guard, because if a vehicle is coming and you are flashing down a vehicle, for example at a road check, you don't know whether you are going to leave after flashing down such a vehicle, because the criminal knows you, you don't know the criminal. So there's tendency for you to be on guard, and somebody will say you are harassing the person. You have to protect yourself. The rifle issued to you by the police authority is for one, to protect your life and to protect the rifle before you start protecting other people. So this sent a sort of signal to even the SARS personnel themselves to be at alert and on the defensive all the time. So, and when you now go beyond that, because there are operational procedures, no doubt, because before, like I said, before you are recruited, you must have spent 5 years or above in other area, and if you are of a certain age, you are not recruited into SARS. But when you train the mind of an officer to the level of withstanding vicious armed robbers or kidnappers, then you have taken his mind out of the ordinary. Then you have to carry out a check and balances on regular basis to be able to curtail its excesses. But to answer your question appropriately, so those kind of incidences have some certain psychological effect on the personnel, and we try to go even on training, even before the issue of reform. But like I said, when the IG came on board, he arranged reform for them. But when we train them not to become emotional, because when you become emotional, if you see a suspect that this is the person that have raped so person, and the person confessed, or this person that have robbed another victim, and you saw him, you know, there's tendency as human being to become emotional. So part of the training is to train them that, look, you have to judge, even if somebody have killed 10 people, you shouldn't carry out a judicial killing on it. But when you send such people to court, for example, and you get the suspect being recycled, like let's take the case of One Chance. One Chance people are people that start approaching you with the issue of money, dollars, and other things. But when you fail to dance to their tune and they know you are wise, they strangulate you. And these are people that you take to court, and at the end of the day, you still find them on the street in less than 3 months. And even if the judge or the magistrate that want to, the judge that will attend to it, since a violent crime, that will attend to such a matter, will look at your ways, okay, the suspect is remanded to prison custody. And when the matter comes for hearing, subsequently, the granted bail. Those who robbed the bureau de change in Abuja, some of them were immediately released, not to a year. And these people went back and started kidnapping women, mostly from the metro in Abuja, and taking them to Silida and collecting ransom. And these people are equally arrested. So that is why all organs, including the Nigerian police force, the judiciary, and others that are involved in the criminal justice system, should know that it is not quite easy to get an armed robber arrested. And it is not quite easy to take him through the process of investigation. And when you take such a person to court, and the person gets released back, so you recycle suspect, and these people will come more vicious, more emboldened. So what has happened to their colleagues is something that have a psychological effect on their mind. But we are putting a check and balances in place. That is why the escort of the force have been going around to check the activities of this personnel. But that does not mean it's not enough to violate the rights of every Nigerian. But to a criminal, a policeman that's a robber is an enemy. And to a policeman, every person is innocent. And in the process of not being on guard, not being an alert, then you lose your life. And when you lose your life, you can't replace them. And that is why the operation of SARS is to a large extent differ from the conventional operation.
All right, first PRO, thank you very much. Let me return to Lagos. Retired AIG Bala Hassan, I would like you to dwell more on the aspect of the question relating to how the SARS as we knew it was organized. I asked, was it that every DPO could have his own SARS? Was it that every area commander could have his own SARS, or every state police command? And therefore, to whom did SARS report before we understand the new arrangement of federal SARS? What was the reporting line, and how of course, to the extent that you can disclose this, how were infractions dealt with, along the chain of command?
Well, in days gone by, there was, as I earlier said, there was no SARS. Each state criminal investigation department had its own anti-robbery section, whether they call them D5 or D4 as the case may be. So they deal with anti-robbery. But with the growth of, with the provision of robbery operations within Lagos, Axis, Benin, when you talk about during the Anini era of 1986, the need to have SARS became imperative. So some commands have their own special anti-robbery squads in addition to the conventional anti-robbery in the state CID. This was how this thing was done. I know when I was in Edo, I had a SARS team that contributed immensely to making Edo safe for the people, especially in terms of robbery of banks. Most robberies in banks are carried out from 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and SARS is your last line of defense. Without the SARS, there is no way. Even the armed robbers have that psychological fear of special anti-robbery squads. So each command then was having its own special anti-robbery squad, different from the one anti-robbery in state CID. But the state SARS under the CP is one that is a strike force of each command. So they report to the commissioner of police, and he deploys them and supervises them. But this new arrangement now portends that there will be the head of SARS will be in Abuja, who will be reporting to the DIG. So all the other SARS commanders across the federation will be reporting direct to the commissioner of police in charge of social anti-robbery. But the snag there is probably the chain of command may be longer. And when the chain is longer, there may be problem. I remember when I was in Lagos as a young officer, there was a robbery taking place at Ikoyi. The man didn't know any person. He called the villa called the IG called the AIG in Zone 2, the AIG in Zone 2 called the CP called the DPO. Before the DPO reached there, DPO could reach there. This happened at the robbers have escaped. So what are we saying? We are saying that if the chain of command is less, instead of reporting to a CP in Abuja, probably it should be shorter for more efficient supervision. By and large, you can see that the previous arrangement where CP exercised controls over Special Anti-Robbery Squad, in my view, may have been better than the present arrangement. However, I believe the IG who knows where it pinches has a wider vision of what is on the ground now. That is why he makes this arrangement. But if they seek my opinion, the other arrangement whereby a CP has control over the SARS at his own area will be very, very imperative and very, very much better for control of the activities of SARS. But however, I may think that even at the present arrangement which the IG is trying to do, the CP of a command is not entirely divulged from the activities of his SARS in his area. He should still exercise some either administrative operational control over them while reporting to his commander in the force headquarters.
Wondering, retired AIG, thank you very much. Dr. Ona Okomo, let's still stay with you gentlemen in Lagos. At a time when there is a clamor for operational decentralization, does Nigeria need a federal SARS at this time? I mean, if you say that you have to drill down to the local level, the municipal level, to be able to deal with these stated offenses or criminalities, armed robbery and kidnapping, why then are you now going to have a solitary commissioner of police who is the commander? And as the retired AIG was talking, if the chain of command is rather too long, would that not likely impact on efficiency and effectiveness?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Honorable Kingsley. I think the problems are quite glaring because it creates an administrative bottleneck. This is pure administration now. We know that when the chain of command is too lengthy, it creates, a cog in the wheel of efficiency. Now, aside from that, the problem that SARS had, like AIG Hassan just said, is not one of the command structure. The problem was operational, perhaps even programmatic. So what does that mean? We look at programmatic means, operational means. Okay, sure, it had administrative problems, mostly in terms of resourcing. What kind of training were they getting? Tactical training. Kabir has just said in the studio there that he doesn't think that they get enough tactical training. Do they get shoot, no shoots training? They don't get that. Do they have built up urban environments where they carry out actual tactical exercises? No, there's no time for exercise because there are too many armed robbers and kidnappers. So they're always on the go. Now, what about other, let's go to programmatic issues. Psych. I think the FPRO just mentioned the psych evaluation. And he mentioned very well about the stress level. I think I have a release out in the papers today about this issue. And I spoke about the stress level. Policing is very stressful. It's extremely stressful. You see a lot of bad things. Let's just put it that way. You see a lot of, you see humanity at its lowest level. Many things go very wrong. Look at the people at Sabongidaura, the one that happened on July 14th that he spoke about. These guys were shot dead and then put in their vehicle, patrol vehicle, and burnt to ashes. So it agitates my mind. Who did that kind of a thing and what was their motivation for doing that? So, you know, these are police personnel being killed. Galadimawa, he spoke about, Biriningwari, of course, the IRT ambush in Kaduna. You know, in the course of making an arrest. And this thing goes on and on. So what I'm saying is we have a real problem now where even police personnel are being victimized. They are being targeted. So, but let's leave that. Policing is very stressful. So people go home a lot with stress in their mind. They go home with heavy, very negative images. Of course, the court systems are not helping, like DCP has said. And so these guys have to be deprogrammed. So we need to do a lot of psychological evaluation. We need to do counseling. One of the things I called for was to have a review, an IA, Internal Affairs review of every projectile encounter. Every time a policeman goes out there, he discharges his weapon, he must go back to a unit in the office that does an evaluation with him and kind of resolves it with him psychologically. So, so you need to get people with those kinds of skills to help police people walk through their stress, because they are human beings and they carry these images with them. Some of them have post-traumatic stress disorder. They can't sleep well. They dream of all kinds of terrible things. And sometimes they go out and act out these things also in public. So it's really unfortunate. But I think I'm happy that the reform is on, the overhaul is on, the restructuring is on, and hopefully we'll get our rhythm right. But before I give it back to you, Mr. Kingsley, I just want to say that when you have an important thing like this for an agency or for a unit that has been in existence for so long, 40 years, there should be a little bit more thought going into the kind of restructuring that we're going to do. I don't think a knee-jerk reaction will serve us well. Yes, I know IG has been working on this problem for a while because the complaints have been there. Amnesty International has been making a lot of grouse with us. But I think now that the presidential directive has come through, we should probably still take a little bit of time and work on it. That's the police agency, the police conical apex should take a little bit of time, work on it before they come up with the final product that Nigerians will enjoy.
Very much, Dr. Ona Ehomo from Lagos. We'll return back to Lagos shortly, but let's bring in quickly Kabir here. I want you to analyze what they've just talked about. For me, the crux of the matter is about operational issues. What are your views on that?
Firstly, the directive by the acting president is to overhaul. And unfortunately, the journalist who gave us the report by the IG, I know he's in trouble right now, did not give us the whole content of the directive. So I would emphasize the word that this is work in progress. The IG has listed a couple of things he will do. We've not yet heard from the acting president whether he's happy with these steps taken by the IG. To answer your question directly, I will mention one key word, which is intelligence. It is at the core of operations. And unfortunately, under our current setting, there are lots of lapses in terms of the gathering, in terms of the analysis, as well as the dissemination of intelligence. Part of what we have been advocating, and even President Buhari has severally mentioned this, is to see a pool of intelligence between all the security agencies. Now, if this is done in the right manner, I see nothing wrong with the central, management unit for the activities of the federal SARS, but it should be intelligence-driven. Now, that is the promise by the IG of police, but I'm very worried that, given what I know about the police and the other security agencies, we're not yet doing anything in that regard. And I'll be very specific. How do we collect this intelligence? Where do we pool the intelligence? And then more importantly, how is that intelligence being used? I'll try to explain this. So you have 700 plus local governments in the country. You have police units in all of these local governments. Let's take it down to the civil defense. They have their units. The DSS have their units. All of these organizations, quote and unquote, collect information, collect intelligence. What do they do with it? Who has custody of that intelligence? And then how can this new commissioner, who is in charge of federal SARS, make use of this intelligence to deploy the assets he has? Unless and until we do that, then the operations of this unit, unfortunately, will be clogged by the administrative bureaucracy that we've mentioned.
All right, Kabir, gentlemen, we're taking a short break now. When we return, we focus again on some of the aspects of the new reforms of what is now being referred to as federal SARS, and whether, in fact, federal SARS is desirable at a time when there is a clamor for decentralization of the police force. Let's take a short break now.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Can I see your particulars, sir?
Officer, my particulars no dey here.
In that case, you'll have to come with me to the police station.
Officer, which levels? Where I for find you something make you take arrange your weekend.
What? Offense number 1, driving without particulars. Offense number 2, trying to bribe an officer of the law.
I won't harass Nigerians or take bribe. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria. We're reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. I would like us to return to our guests in Lagos to still dwell on the issue of whether federal SARS is desirable at this time, considering the fact that 774 local government areas, 36 states. If you are the Federal Capital Authority, that's 37. I don't know how many area commands that there are. You're not going to have a sole authority, as it were, who is a commissioner of police to be in charge of what has now been rechristened as federal SARS. Gentlemen, let's take a look at this. I asked the question earlier. What was wrong, for instance, with the operational utilization, command and control of SARS as we knew it versus what is coming on board now? And bear in mind that at the federal level, that's to say at the police headquarters, there is an Inspector General of Police team headed by Abba Kyari. It's also been very effective. I mean, it goes into, shall we say, very tight situations, and, you know, it gets the situations resolved, even when you have the local SARS. So, but if you are now having a single command at Abuja, how is that going to aid efficiency? I want to ask that question again. Let's begin with Dr. Onaihomo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kingsley. Well, I think I have a bit of a problem with it because I see the new order, the new federal SARS, as counterintuitive. Now, I have said in this your program several times that what we really need to do here in this country is to govern all space in the country. Let no space be ungoverned. Because that's what the bad guys are looking for. Kidnappers need stash houses, they need safe houses, they need operating space, they even need practice area to ply their trade. Armed robbers, the same thing. They must have a place to go and share their money before they go and enjoy it, and you know, so on and so forth. So we have a lot of you know, those kinds of scenarios. Now, what is going on here is that bringing everything back into Abuja, I think, well, it appears the IG, I just want to see if I can read what we call policy intent from what the IG is doing. I think it appears he wants to see to it that SARS is working well, and so he wants it to be closed. He wants to keep it closed. But the reality on ground is that you really need to let this thing go, but now bring in good administrative, programmatic, and perhaps even like Mr. Kabir was saying, technological controls that will make this thing work. What are technological controls, for example, you might ask? What about software, incident management software? We have all kinds of cases everywhere in this country. Let's get software that will help us do policing, do crime mapping, do incident mapping, get command and control software that will help us manage incidents, violent incidents everywhere, and let these things be fed. Let these things, the information be fed into the computer, so it provides ability to predict even the next event and also learn from events that have occurred, such that our people can be more effective. So that's a technological approach. What a programmatic? Well, there are so many things we have said here about the programs, but let me go to one element which I think I have a big problem with too, and I state it in my news release that's out in the papers today. The moving of SARS or FSARS now out of FCID into OPS. Now, OPS, they have a lot of work. Their work is a call for service, that's answering distress calls from citizens, patrolling, VIP protection, whatever it is, all the kinds of things that OPS. OPS has a lot of work providing, what do you call it, people to escort movements and all that. OPS is very busy. Now, investigation of violent criminal acts and, in fact, tactical response, which, like Mr. Moshood said, is the aim, was the aim of SARS, or is the aim of SARS, providing a strike force, requires the intelligence work room, the intelligence workshop, such that this is where this stuff will be cooked, because that's where the cerebral work will be done. Now, there are two things happening here. Let me quickly say, there's a difference between intelligence and investigation. Now, intelligence is getting the indication, the intercepts that will let you know what is about to happen. Now, investigation is the one where you carry out interviews, do crime scene work, do forensic work, get information from all kinds of informants, such that you can detect who did it, get enough information, get enough evidence, such that you can successfully prosecute in court. Now, that is where most of our cases fall on their faces, because we don't gather enough evidence. We do, SARS gets a lot of confessions, but these confessions are recanted in open court. And so it's a problem. That's why, like he was saying, some of these cases get thrown out most of the time, and people feel bad. But I think we should now focus on scientific policing. So that brings us back again to the cycle of technology-led policing. We need to go back to scientific policing. SARS, like I called for in my thing today, should have crime scene units that will go and do criminalistics work, such that they can bring hard evidence that will put these violent criminals away or send them to their to their legal death. That's if it's for decapitation. But to have a situation where we are mixing up apples, oranges is a problem. But I think Kabiru said it well. This is a new directive, and this work in progress. We are just starting. And I am sure that it will be fine-tuned, even with input like from good people like you. It will be fine-tuned as time goes on.
Very much, Dr. Ona Ihomo. We're still staying in Lagos. I want retired AIG Bala Hassan to also comment on this issue of a single command. Do you think that will change anything?
I said it earlier. If I'm to have my way, the former system may be better, because the centralization will create some longer chains of command. However, if the IG could call this CP, I don't know whether the CP appointed is somebody who has gone through the mill, who has been an anti-robbery man before. CP Special Anti-Robbery, there is a fire on the mountain. What do you need to succeed? X, Y, Z. Anything you need to succeed should be given to that particular commissioner of police so that he can deliver. So if he fails to deliver, they should fire him, because for the presidency to come in at this stage, which means the matter is really of grave concern to Nigerians. So that CP who is appointed should be asked of what he needs to succeed throughout the federation, especially the flashpoints we are having along Kaduna, Abuja road. That road have been giving problem to Nigerians. So, and there are other areas too, the expressway leading to Ohosu and Ofosu going to Benin. They know the flashpoints. So all these flashpoints are supposed to be monitored, and the person should be given a mandate. anything the commissioner needs, the IG should give him. If he fails to deliver, then they should show him the way he has failed. They should bring another person. We have many competent police commissioners in Nigeria who knew very much about using computer to solve criminal problems. They should look for them. If this one fails, I hope the one IG selected, he knows his team, is the person who can deliver to Nigeria. So let IG call him. I know they say work is in progress. If you are not done so, you should call him and ask whatever he needs should be given to him. If they give him what he needs, he doesn't perform, then definitely he is not fit to hold that office. And of course, when they talk of intelligence-driven, the waylaying of our men, security men, and killing them is rather unfortunate. We expect at a stage not much of SARS to be on the ground, their foot on the ground. We can deploy drones to go to these areas where these people are hiding to come and attack on the highway and get information about them, pass it to ground men who could go down and route them from where they are. So these are some of the things should be at the table of the new SARS commander. So he should be up and doing and make sure he delivers. If this is what the IG desires, I'm sure it will succeed if they give them all the things they require. But from the situation of things where they are saying that there are 1,560 police stations in Nigeria and you are giving them $500 million to fuel the vehicles. At that rate, only one patrol vehicle will only fuel 1,070 naira per day. How will it reach to patrol Nigerians to give them the SARS they deserve? So these are some of the issues the IG or the National Assembly should look at. Thank you.
AIJ Bala Hassan, thank you very much for your views. So let's bring in again the Force Public Relations Officer with us here in the studios. I still would like to raise this point. I mean, the unitary approach now to SARS operations, calling it federal SARS, again, it probably is not too relevant, but that has to do with prosecution. Armed robbery and kidnapping are state offenses in the first instance. You know, these are not federal offenses. And then in terms of operations, how do you make it more efficient? Ona Ehomo, Doctor, was raising some points with regard to moving it from intelligence and investigation into operations. And yet, at the same time, we say, look, SARS should be intelligence-driven.
Thank you so much. I think it's important to come to me around this time so that I can let you know what we are doing to tackle all those reservations that they have raised in the course of the program. You discover that we have 774 local governments in the country. It's not all of them that have SARS detachment established there. The establishment is in the state, and the state is to ensure that they cover all the area of the state. But the point I come to limelight now for people to know is that the Commissioner of Police of every state of the Federation is a constitutional thing, have the right of supervision and administration of all the police detachments in that state. And the Inspector General of Police have continued to re-emphasize and re-encode it to their hearing. Now, you have the police mobile force in every state of the Federation. In fact, we have over 66 mobile squadron across the Federation now, under the supervision of the Commissioner of Police in charge of mobile force at the Force Headquarters, who report to the Inspector General, Deputy Inspector General of Police, who in turn responds to the Inspector General of Police, and their processes for their deployment. There are quite a number of things that we have been doing and that we are going to do in this arrangement that is not for public consumption. So because as we, the civil-minded Nigerians are listening to us, the criminals too are listening. So most of the operational modules and the operandis of this arrangement now will not be close in the air. And I don't want to be pushed to the extent of doing that, because I will not definitely do that, because it will jeopardize all the reform agenda. Then having said that, when you look at the state level, the Commissioner of Police have supervisory role over the SARS in the state. But the SSCs before, like people have pointed out, and that is leading to this reform of a division creating SARS, of the Commissioner of Police creating SARS, which will slow down and cause public outcry, is what is being eradicated. But a lot of things are being put into work as we speak. The IGP doesn't come on his own and come out with this outcome. He called the management team, and he called the CP call the DIG operation, and we'll look at it properly. The Nigerian police force has so many departments, and these departments are working in synergy. The Force Criminal Intelligence and Investigation Department are there, which the intelligence aspect is led by an Assistant Inspector General of Police. And they have at the state, they have at the divisions, they have at the outstation level, those we call those days the CIB personnel, who equally give their report to the DPO, and at the same time send it to the headquarters. So all those intelligence reports are going to be asked and used by federal SARS. And equally of note is that for long, except people don't take time off to read what we have been achieving and what we have been doing, we have the scene of crime expert that are domiciled in every command. This scene of crime expert, when crime is committed, for example, maybe violent crime of murder, of armed robbery and the likes, scene of crime experts go there, tape and gather evidence. And this evidence are used in prosecution. And when you talk of the prosecution in court, it is not the SARS personnel that prosecute. Nigerian police force today, I make bold to say that we stand out to be the single organization that have the highest number of lawyers, including public or private sector. We have the highest number of lawyers to prosecute for us. So this is to ensure that we work in synergy. There's going to be a good synergy and cordial working relationship between all the departments of the force. So the issue of maybe they are intelligence driven or not wouldn't arise. They are going to be intelligence driven based on the intelligence obtained. They have the right equally as a unit to cultivate informant and get information from them. But the intelligence branch of the force, which is at the force headquarters and each command and each division, gather intelligence and forward to them and they act on it. So a commander SARS, for example, in Lagos, doesn't need to call the CP in the force headquarters to engage robbery incident. But what we are saying is that once he's engaging and carrying out, even the issue of this issue that we have in Ikorodu for a very long period of time. Bado boys. Were quenched by SARS, what do you call it, outfit. So
not SARS from Abuja.
No, what I'm saying, they are from Abuja, but they are domiciled in the state. That is why you have federal SARS commander in every state, who should be the rank of a CSP and not below the rank of a superintendent of police, and has all his personnel. So there's not any problem that's going to arise from that, because he's domiciled in the state, he's living in the state, his formation is in the state, he's not in Abuja. But to ensure transparency and to ensure that we keep tab, not only the police mover for that is on that unitary arrangement to the force headquarters, the special protection unit are equally there in the state, the counter-terrorism unit are equally there in the state, the EOD, the Explosive Ordnance Department of the Force, are equally domiciled in the state, and they are carrying police function in the state, and they are under the supervision of the Commissioner of Police in the state, and the Commissioner of Police in the state have the right to deploy them. But it's only when you give wrong, don't obey lawful, what they call it, instruction. That is when the SARS commander will say, no, this aspect of things is not the responsibility. And you know the activities are being reduced to only armed robbery and kidnapping, while the divisional headquarters will carry out other core police duty in the area of maybe you have complaint of maybe assault, you have complaint of any disturbance anywhere. They are not going to be used for escort or probably for crowd control or probably to engage them in any duty that is not specified in this arrangement. So we want Nigerians to disabuse their mind that putting them under a unitary command is going to cause lapses. It will not. It will make the job better.
All right. First Public Relations Officer, we have a number of tweets that have come in. We're going to try to run through them. They're just quite lengthy. And then we'll get the closing thoughts from Kabir. That's a point he raised about training. I'll come to him shortly after we go through those the tweets that we have. Joy, let's begin.
Okay.
This is from Victor Ohioswama. It says the directive to restructure SARS is a step in the right, is the right decision. Several cases of alleged human rights abuses should be investigated and appropriate sanctions meted out to those found culpable.
Now, let's take this one from Dele Medj. It says, it is crucial that any overhaul of SARS is far-reaching and immediately effective. Restructuring SARS is not enough unless the government takes concrete steps to protect Nigerians. SARS must be independent and impartial. Victims should be given more time and protection to present their cases.
Now, Salame Ola tweet says SARS should be made more responsible in terms of physical appearance, uniform, name tag, and manner of approaching Nigerians.
And this one is from Omakoji1. Congratulations to all the advocates of good system devoid of social engineering and abuse of office for the public outcry against SARS excesses. Having said that, Ogajimo, if you claim authority is aware of SARS excesses before this time, why have you kept mute all these years?
Now, this is from Pastor Arisha. It says, disbanding SARS isn't a good idea due to the significant impact the outfit had made in the past across the country.
And this one is coming from Chigozem Macdom. It says, we need them actually, but absolute power kills. The poor monitoring of activities of SARS led many of its members to become monsters.
And we have this from Sadarawi. Now, members of the SARS unit must possess well-defined moral rectitude, and they must be well-groomed, putting on rags and wearing facial look that aberrations must not be one to be identified with law enforcers.
Now, Austin Public tweets, oh, that's the one you just took, Kingsley. We go to El Rufai 12. Let it be restructured by providing them with electronic gadgets and a tracker for monitoring their activities. And by this, I think we're good to go.
DW Nigeria, that's the Twitter handle. Intelligence-led SARS operation should be the norm and not physical attacks on citizens.
And this is from Mike Anyako. He says SARS started well after the formation, but only got abused later. In some states, though, it can be restructured by making sure that officers posted to the units are debriefed after 2 years. SARS still relevant to fighting crimes. An example is my state, Anambra, where fear of SARS by criminal is the beginning of wisdom. People should not use the unit to settle personal scores as experienced before. Officers to be posted there must undergo special training, especially on human rights. Police should be seen as friends of the society, disciplined and professional.
And we have this from Belesha Novic. It says, the Inspector General of Police shouldn't be the one to restructure SARS. The three arms of government should come up with a framework which is constitutionally based, capturing all the states and actors involved in politics, because restructuring is beyond 2019.
Quite a number of tweets here, Kingsley, and we should give our online viewers the opportunity to express their views. At Ogbeni SARS, he says, SARS shouldn't be disbanded. Well, it is not. It's just been restructured, rather reformed. There's no security agency without bad eggs. It's just some are pronounced than the others because of their closeness to the public. The same way, there are many bad eggs among SARS officers, and it's the same that we have good ones.
That's right. Odalube Peter tweets, as a criminologist, I'm of the opinion that SARS needs serious rehabilitation because there are more criminals now than non-criminals. SARS started well, but they have failed. I'm a victim of their misconduct. I've been a victim of their misconduct twice, whereas I'm neither a suspect nor a criminal.
And let's go to at Oke Udovi. He says, the change of name from SARS to FSARS is tantamount to repainting a stinking leaking pipe without fixing the mess. SARS needs character training and disciplinary regulations. People use them for dirty jobs, which ought not to be.
All right, very quickly, let's take this from Zuntu Suleiman. That's a new one. It says, we commend the directive on the acting president as timely and germane. However, the overhaul must be centered around intelligence gathering, monitoring, and domestic campaign for a vibrant security outfit, rather than what obtains in some open clips of brutality by SARS.
And this one is from Imalunegbe. It says, Nigerians need SARS, but need to put them on their primary responsibilities, such as letting them know they are not to search young boys' phones.
And this is from Markogi again. That says, there's no need for the polarization of security outfits here and there. If the police are properly trained, they can effectively do the work SARS are doing today. Therefore, end SARS now, for if we allow them to remain, they will resume their action some days later.
And this one is from Al Sadarawi. It says, let there be a proactive unit in harsh NPF that will always be responsible for enforcement of discipline amongst member staff. This unit must open to all with toll-free number and quick in responding to any complaint brought to the desk.
All right, so those are the twists that we can take. Kabir, you talked about training, and also considering the trauma that some officers of SARS also undergo. Do we have a sense of, for instance, whether professors of psychology or other clinical psychologists are engaged, from time to time around the various state commands to shrink, the SARS operatives and, get them in the right frame of mind, considering what they encounter from the business level, perhaps up to the more rarified levels of society?
Yeah, from my engagement with the police, I don't have a fair understanding of whether that is happening. I think the fourth PR will probably be in a better position to confirm or that is happening or not. However, we know that they do need that. The stress level associated with their functions is very high. So definitely that kind of psychological evaluation as well as support for where red flags have been noticed is very crucial to the operations of their work.
First PRO.
Thank you so much. That has been done even from the footage from one of your reporters before the background. You can see that there's a season of training that's going on, and the IG took his time off to even be part of that training, to equally lecture them, open the training, and was there throughout the training. So that evaluation has been done. But what we are doing is to make it constant, and that is why the IGP have directed that we bring those people on board again to start this round of training. And the medical stroke psychological evaluation has already commenced. And like I said, largely, most of the things we do within is not something we take to the media.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right, first PRO, thank you very much. We understand that there are some helplines that members of the public can access in case of any complaints that they may have. You can see the numbers on the screen. It's on that note, while we still have the numbers on the screen, we would like to thank our 4 guests who have been with us in the studios. Kabiru, of course, is a security risk expert. Kabir, thank you very much for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria today. We also would like to thank the First Public Relations Officer, who is acting Deputy Commissioner of Police, Jimoh Moshood. Thanks a lot for being with us on the program. If we can have those helplines again on the screen, that will be very useful to our viewers, because we are signing off on the conversation now. From Lagos, of course, our 2 guests, familiar faces, retired AIG Bala Hassan, who is also a lawyer. You saw him earlier in dark suit and a dark tie. Thanks a lot for being with us. And Ona Ohemo, who always calls me Honorable Kingsley. We'd like to appreciate you all, gentlemen, for being with us on this conversation segment. So that does it for us. I'm sure that from time to time, these numbers will pop up, and the members of the public can take advantage of them.
That's right.
All right, so let's go on now to our complimentary segments, and here is sports.
Thursday's schedule at the 2018 Under-20 Women's World Cup in France opened with a clash of Spain and Nigeria, when the Europeans will be open to continue the fine form shown in a tough Group C, and the Africans will be banking on their greater experience at the tournament. Later, the hosts will look to take revenge for their defeat in the 2016 final against the defending champions Korea DPR, who only secured a berth in the last 8 after a roller coaster ride through Group B. Heading into the last 8 showdown, Nigeria can take encouragement from the fact that they have beaten Spain once before at the Under-20 World Cup in the group stage of the 2016 edition, as the Spanish ladies will be open to reach the last 4 of this tournament for the first time. The Falconets of Nigeria take on Spain today at 4 p.m. Nigerian time, with the winner to feature in the semi-final against France or Japan. Meanwhile, Nigeria's Victor Moses has announced his retirement from international football at the age of 27 in order to focus on his club career. Chelsea wingback Moses, who made 37 appearances for Nigeria, played every minute of the African Nations World Cup campaign in Russia, where they were eliminated in the group stage. Moses won the